Hey guys, welcome back. So today I brought home this Powermate generator. And despite what's going on with this wheel and foot, I think this machine's in pretty good shape. It looks like it was stored indoors. The tank is actually dry and pretty clean. So potentially someone stored this properly. The fuel valve is off and the engine has good compression. So this one might not be a difficult one to fix if it needs fixing at all. Person I got this from doesn't know the history on it. He actually owns a property that he rents out. The tenant moved out and left this behind. So Paul, who is a subscriber, reached out to me and asked me if I wanted it. And yeah, he didn't have to ask twice. So I picked it up today and here it is. So before trying to start this thing, I do need to fix this wheel. It has a tube in it. The tube is blown out, so that has to be replaced. We'll get the foot on, then we'll check the basics. And if everything looks good, we'll try starting it. All right, I've got this tire here. It has a good tube in it, but the condition of the tire itself is not as good. So I'm going to get the tube out of here. We'll move it over to there. Yeah, it should be fine to test with. And always a good idea to check the throttle. This one's not stuck, but generators, when they're off, they sit in full open throttle. And if this gets stuck and you start it, you're going to cause damage. But in this case, that throttle plate is free, so it should be safe to start, or at least try. So I'm going to hook up the fuel, see what happens. All right, plan B. It's actually raining out and pretty late at night, so I'm not going to hook the gas up to it just yet. I am going to get the airbox cover off. We'll give it a squirt of starting fluid and see if I can get it to run long enough to validate that it makes power and listen to how the engine sounds. Not sure what that white stuff is. It's a little unusual looking, but it's not coming off. Most likely it's just a bit of corrosion. All right, we got power, and the engine sounds good. Now, it shouldn't have run that long on starting fluid, so there was some fuel left in the bowl. Most likely that carburetor needs to be cleaned. And there was a lot of smoke coming out of the exhaust. It seemed to be getting a little bit better, but it wasn't running long enough really to say for sure. So I'll wait till the morning, we'll get the test tank hooked up to it, and run this for an extended period and see if that smoke burns off. All right, it's getting a little bit late in the day. Don't have too much time here before the sun goes down. So I've got the fuel hooked up. I'm going to try starting it, and hopefully the carb can run this machine for a bit so we can see if that smoke clears up. Okay, not too bad. It started first pull, and the carburetor's doing a good job running this engine, so I'm not concerned about that. And the smoking, not an issue. That smoke dissipated immediately, so no issues with the engine. The engine speed itself was pretty good. It was about 62 hertz, but the voltage was too high, in my opinion. This does not have an AVR, so the voltage is going to be high without a load. But the upper end that I usually see is around 128 to 130 volts. And this was more than that. So I do want to slow the engine down a bit, closer to 61.5, maybe a touch slower. So the easiest way to do that is to get this cover off, bend the tab, relieve some of the spring tension on the governor. So that's what I'm going to do. While I'm at it, I'm going to get the tank off and probably the exhaust off now that we know we have a good machine. I want to get a little bit of fresh paint on there. So let's get this back inside. The exhaust really isn't that bad. You know, on the top, maybe. The front, I think, is the worst of it. So I'm just going to knock off as much of that as I can with a wire wheel. We'll degrease it and then put some fresh paint on it. For that, I'm using this Rust-Oleum product. It is meant for headers. All right, it's been about 24 hours, and this thing is dried. So came out pretty well, definitely a million times better than what it was. And to finish it off, I'm just going to add a spark arrestor. Yeah, it's a pretty big improvement, but it only highlights the rust over here on the stator. And I was not planning on painting the stator. And that's mostly because the stator is made out of plates that are insulated electrically from one another to reduce eddy currents. And I don't want to attack it with a wire wheel. I don't want to damage something. You know, that said, I think putting a little bit of paint on it will be better than doing nothing at all. So I've already brushed all the loose rust off with a plastic bristle brush and a brass brush as well. So I'm going to get the receptacle box out. We'll get the tire off to get more access, mask everything off, and I'll put a little bit of Rust-Oleum black enamel on it. Okay, that's better. And I know some of you are probably shaking your head that 130 volts is not good, but the fact is this has no AVR. And a generator like this without a load typically runs at a minimum of 127 volts, usually between there and 132. So we were high. We started at about 135 volts. I was able to get it down to 130. So I'm going to finish putting this thing back together and call it done. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I mean, this one was not in bad shape. It did start and run. Granted, it needed a little bit of attention, but overall, not too bad. So I hope this video helps someone. Thanks for watching.